Most people at the time, and presently, they forgot about President Eisenhower's incredible, important, and relevant farewell address. You basically brought it back to the public and showed the importance and how it relates to us today. Why have people forgotten about, as I'm reading this book, I mean, it's so extraordinary what happens in Moscow and what Reagan says in that speech. Why isn't that one of his most famous speeches? Why has most people forgotten, including historians, except the famous Bret Baier, forgotten about this speech of President Reagan's?
Well, I think he had a number of rhetorical moments that kind of overshadowed others, and there were a lot of moments that you think about the end of the Cold War. I mean, the tear down this wall speech at the Brandenburg Gate is what comes to mind for everybody. But this fourth summit is really the culmination of this effort. He always believed that communism was destined to fail, that it didn't have a shot, and that he wanted to position himself to be able to challenge Gorbachev in those summits. You know, he didn't talk to the other leaders before Gorbachev. He used to joke that they all were dying on him. But he didn't want to really be on the same stage, the same playing field as those other leaders that were kind of communist apparatchik. When Gorbachev comes in, Prime Minister Thatcher meets with him and then calls Reagan and says, "This is someone you can deal with." It opened the door, and because Reagan had spent his life anti-communist, all the way back to when he was the president of the Screen Actors Guild in Hollywood, fighting communism there, he had set the table to be able to take the brass ring of negotiating with Mikhail Gorbachev.
But why did the Soviets let President Reagan make this speech in Moscow where he spoke of freedom, human rights, and a democratic society that could be theirs if they fought for it? Why? Why did they let him?
Because, one, they knew times were changing. You know, Mikhail Gorbachev had this glasnost of perestroika. He was trying to change old Soviet Union to look towards the future. They wanted to give Reagan some hat tip that they had gotten this far together. They had already gotten this intermediate nuclear missile treaty that was a major step. And they wanted to give Reagan what he wanted, which was to be able to talk about human rights. Every time Reagan and Gorbachev talked, Reagan brought up human rights. And it used to really make Gorbachev pretty mad, actually, because he was repetitive. And he would roll his eyes and say, I know, human rights, I got it. And freedom of religion. And he loved to talk about the fact that there was not religion or God in the Soviet Union, Reagan did. In fact, he said, he told the story about his son, Ron, who was an atheist. And he said to Gorbachev, you know, I wanted to say to Ron to serve him this elegant meal and come to the end of the meal and say, do you believe that there was a cook here, a chef? And Gorbachev said, the only answer is yes. And he said, that's what I feel about God and the Soviet Union.